This is Talk Business and Politics with Roby Brock.
Joining me now is John Brummett. He's a columnist with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Always good to have him with us. John, thank you for being here.
Always a pleasure.
Let us begin with, there is a lot happening in overseas politics right now. If you're studying your social media pages, you're seeing a lot of irritation from the left, middle, and the right over the exit from Afghanistan. I guess give me your assessment of what you're seeing and how this is going to impact U.S. politics.
Politics. Well, what we're seeing is something first to begin that is a complete and utter debacle, and no one can deny it. So that's not an issue. And as last I heard, maybe you've heard later, Biden intends to address the nation to explain this. He's going to have to own this. This happened on his watch. It's his withdrawal, albeit the previous administration's stated intent as well, albeit something that started 20 years ago when we decided because Al-Qaeda attacked us to try to build a nation in Afghanistan. So, you know, there's a lot of blame, but it's on Biden's watch. He did it. He's got to own it. And that's what, and then you see, of course, Trump is just, he's just blabbering with his statements. They're arriving 2 or 3 a minute. How he would have done it so much better and, you know, taking advantage of the situation. We're going to see Republicans do that. To be just almost hardened about it, to discuss it in a political sense, I agree with the political analysis that I've read that while this is a debacle, while Biden has to own it, while the Republicans will try to exploit it, in the end, we weren't accomplishing anything anymore there anyway. This was an inevitable way for this tragic end, and in time, the American people will just be glad they're out of there. That's sort of hard to leave the mess we're leaving there, to leave women in Afghanistan to these religious extremists. I know that, but in terms of American politics, this idea that in time this isn't going to make that much difference, whether it should or not, I tend to agree with that.
Yeah. This exit from Afghanistan is something Obama talked about, Trump talked about, Biden talked about. I think, to me, what I'm trying to see, and I think you've touched on it with the potential exploitation from anybody that wants to play politics with this, is there's no disagreement that we should have been exiting from that country.
Right.
The disagreement is over the execution of the exit, is what it is.
And that's what I say Biden has to own is susceptible to criticism for. He's the guy. He did it. He announced the date. We did it this way. And it's just a horrible debacle. There was some, somebody in the Wall Street Journal wrote that this is Saigon on steroids, and it kind of is. Yeah. There's no organized airlift. There are people chasing our Air Force planes at the Kabul airport. We're now using our troops to guard the Kabul airport from the people we're abandoning. Bad for America and horrible for the world. So that's just what it is, and everybody needs to say so.
Let's pull our attention back to Arkansas. We've had quite a week in Arkansas due to COVID-19 and the politics surrounding that. We've seen, I guess, a week ago Friday, the lawsuit was filed. We talked about that about a week ago to basically got the injunction on the mask mandate ban. We have seen over the course of the last week, I think something north of 70 school districts have imposed mask mandates in somewhat of a repudiation of the Arkansas legislature's inaction on that front. What's your take?
Yes, I think that leaves a whole bunch of districts that aren't, but most of the big districts in the state, most of the students, it'd be interesting to calculation, and somebody's going to make it. I haven't made it, but I think considering that the Little Rock, Pulaski County, and Bentonville and Fayetteville, I think Jonesboro, El Dorado, the big school, Bryant, the bigger schools are going to have mandates. More kids will be going to school with mask mandates than not, if not more districts. So that is good. And yeah, I see it as a conservative areas, Bentonville, rural, suburban Pulaski County, suburban areas of Little Rock are opposing or chose mask mandates, and I think it shows that what happened, as too often happens, is that our legislators are beholden to the base, the Trumpian noise-making base, and that while it is loud and while they dare not lose it because that's what they owe their political allegiance to and their political careers to, it's not necessarily persuasive on or dominant on all issues. You get this back close to home with parents on school boards listening to the health professionals and enduring the wrath of the anti-maskers, and you're seeing some brave, responsible decisions. And that's a heartening thing.
I saw someone commented on, we're coming after you in the next school board election, and somebody responded, good, you can have it. Being on a school board is a thankless public service.
It's a horrible job. And when this idea of local control, and when this idea that these supposed conservatives in the legislature had usurped local control, and a lot of people were arguing that we restore local control because that's a conservative principle. I heard from largely small town people who said, I don't trust our school board to be able to deal with the pressure. And some have punted on this thing. But yeah, I suspect in some of these areas, the loud people are going to run themselves or run candidates for the school board. And who knows how that's how that will turn out. But the school boards today, the ones in place now with the responsibility, 70-something of them in most of our large school districts have stepped up and honored themselves with what they've done.
I am surprised you've not tapped into former State Representative Chris Ritchie's tweet where he says, I have to admit, I had no idea the liberal elites had control of this many Arkansas school districts. Pretty covert operation they've been running.
The liberals are in charge of Bentonville. Did you know that? 5-2. That museum up there has brought in more liberals than I realized. 5-2 on the school board to do for a mask mandate. Yeah.
Lastly, let's talk about the fact that everybody's lawyering up in this lawsuit here. Governor Hutchinson has got his own attorney because he's going to have a different perspective than the Attorney General is going to have in this. You've got the leaders of the House and the Senate are getting their own outside counsel as well. Does this surprise you that we're seeing so many different legal perspectives in this?
I guess it shouldn't, sort of did. I got a column about it tomorrow, trying to do a legal scorecard. I call it the lawyer palooza. You got, I knew that, here's what's happened. The governor, we know, signed the ban on mask mandates, says he regrets it, went to bat to try to stop it, is right on this issue from my point of view, and has been and has done the right thing in my view by saying, Attorney General Rutledge, she'll have to do her job and defend the state law, and I'm a named defendant, but I'm going to hire my own lawyer. He went out and hired one of Bill Clinton's best friends, an old moderate center-left state legislator, David Matthews from the 80s, who has since had a bright political future, but decided to become a lawyer and has become quite successful and a very good attorney. He's done that. Then Rutledge, here's what Rutledge for a while, sources tell me, was thinking, I may just withdraw on this because I've got my defendants are split, and so I have a conflict. But then she decided she better advance the Trump-based law. Let me not be pejorative. She decided to do her job, I guess, and defend the law. What surprised me a little is that the Speaker, Matthew Shepard, and the President pro tem, Jimmy Hickey, hired their own lawyer and said, we're going to be separate as well. They're not sued individually. They're sued in their official capacity as in behalf of the two legislative chambers, which passed this mask mandate ban. So Leslie Rutledge is going to defend that ban, and therefore she would seem to be defending their interests fully. Seems to be a perfect mesh. But they have decided to hire their own lawyer for reasons that I'm not clear on. Some people think it's to distance themselves from what may be the coming calamity with Marion-style outbreaks in some of our schools. I don't think so. I think they're beholden to represent Trent Garner and Robin Lundstrom and the majority. I think that's what they're doing. I do believe they probably thought this. This is a complex thing. We got one of our co-defendants in the executive branch who's going to be arguing, got himself a pretty good lawyer. He's going to be arguing separately in behalf of the executive branch. An issue here is our legislative authority. One of the issues, several issues in the case, one of them is our legislative authority to restrict his emergency authorities. So why don't we best get our own lawyer just to be there to play defense or to represent our particular institutional interest. I guess that's what's happening, but it does seem somewhat redundant. And bear in mind, these are costs to the taxpayers when these lawyers are hired.
That was the point I was going to make there. You made it for me, and that'll be a good note to end on there. He's John Brummett with the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Thank you for your insight.
Okay, buddy. Next week. Bye.
That's all for today's program. Thanks for watching. I'll see you next time.